Hello, nuts and nerds, and welcome back to A Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about artists. That's right, we're going to point and laugh at them. What a bunch of losers drawing pictures and doing what they enjoy and getting paid for it. Obviously, I'm joking. But we are talking about artists today, and that's because I went out and hired one. Remember way back in my plans for 2025 video, I made mention about getting a squirrel drawn up to use in the channel's logo, banner, and thumbnails? Well, I finally got around to doing that. It only took almost the entire year. And as of making this, the character is still in the works, but that's not what we're here for. We're going to talk about how it went down. Well, really the entire point of this video is just to show off some of the cool artists that I found and hopefully give them a little exposure. There were several that I saw that I knew would work well with some of the projects I've seen you guys working on, so if I can make a couple connections happen, that counts as a win, right? I was skimming over several posts across a couple different artist subs on Reddit trying to find something I liked, but nothing was really popping out for me. Plus, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted either. I needed some help and some direction. So I finally decided to make a post on r/hire an artist. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I get absolutely slammed with responses. I believe the final count was exactly 100 responses, which meant 100 portfolios to go through. And that was only because I put a lid on it first thing in the morning of the next day. If I hadn't, I would have gotten even more. And there's two stinky things about this. One, it means there's a lot of people out there looking for work, but we probably already knew that. The term starving artist has been a thing for a while now, and it's gradually becoming starving everyone. The other thing is, a chunk of those were just frauds. And I don't mean the ones using AI, which granted there was some of that too. I'm talking about just straight up grabbing somebody else's work and claiming it as their own. I was scrolling through one guy's work that he sent me, and the styles were just all over the place. I thought, there is no way he's doing all of these. And then I started seeing pictures that I recognized, so I said, hey man, did you draw all these? The style range is incredible. And they said yes. So I took a picture I recognized, as well as a link to the original author's art page, and I said, crazy, so is this you? I never heard anything back. And that stinks. I mean, not getting a response is fine. People getting their stuff stolen is what stinks. Truth be told, the AI issue wasn't anywhere near what I was expecting. I thought I was going to get swamped with that stuff. But out of those 100 portfolios, I could probably count on one hand the ones that were just hitting the generate image button. Especially if it was an AI hand, because then I'd have extra fingers. Now, on the brighter side of things, and like I mentioned earlier in the video, I got to see a lot of cool work, and that's what I want to show off today, because I know a lot of you have your own projects in the work and might need somebody in the future. Obviously, I can't show everyone, else we'd be here all dang day, but those that I'm showing I reached out to and made sure they were good with being in the video. Except for one, but I'll explain that at the end when we get to her. Unfortunately, not everybody responded. Some just left me on red. But all those that did respond were more than happy to be here. That said, I did filter out the scams and AI generations the best I could, but I am only human. I make mistakes. Always do your own due diligence and there's a mistake. Always do your own due diligence and background checks before handing somebody your hard-earned money. We got there. Anyway, let's show off the cool stuff, and I'm going to start off strong with the D12 Rose. And no, not just because they have D12 in the name. Definitely not playing favorites. Clearly, they have the TTRPG thing down, as you can tell. Really fun style. But they also do maps, and yes, I will probably be giving them a call in the future for a map when Moss and Stone gets to that point. But that's another project for another time. Anyway, going down the list in no particular order and trying not to take too long, up next is Reddit user StrokesOfBoredom. As you can see, they got some fun little designs going on, but of course I was absolutely drawn to this giant raccoon thing here. Because, come on, man, that's awesome. Who wouldn't want to ride around on that in a fantasy land? Next up is InkNSync, and they have some very fantasy, magical-y feeling stuff. And honestly, I didn't even notice the starry constellation tattoos on this one until I started working on this script. And they're pretty cool looking. Very fun, very magical feeling stuff. Next is M8614 or Milena Jure, which I probably did not pronounce right. They have a lot of neato animal stuff like these snazzy little otters right here. Also, Godzilla and dinos count as animals, right? Well, if they don't count, they're still an option, so Up next is Jacob Holden. And honestly, I was considering reaching out to him for some art for Nuts because these little dudes are awesome. But that was before I got to see what Peter's wife had been cooking. Still, very neat, very fun if you got yourself more of a cozy game you're working on. And speaking of, I feel like there was an individual on Peter's server that was working on just that. Anyway, the next one is Baterz, which I actually reached out to for a squirrel. He's got a really fun thug kind of style going on, and I was fairly certain it wouldn't work out for the channel, but I just wanted to see a squirrel in that style. And you know what? Money well spent. It's a great character. Definitely not for the channel, but it's pretty great. Maybe that'll be my dark side or something. Anyway, moving right along, we have Inolicious. And at first glance, you might be thinking it's just some cutesy anime stuff, but if you look at the about me and how they work thing here, it's actually pretty cool. It's really neat to see how they came up with designs from just a pumpkin or an egg, and they also seem to have a fun sense of humor too, which goes a long way for me. But as I was scrolling through this, I got to thinking, this would make a really fun style of game manual and reminded me a lot of Break, which I think has an incredible layout. Very, very fun stuff. Next up is Gabriel, and honestly, do I even need to say anything about this one? If I ever needed a barbarian drawn, this would absolutely be my go-to. Got that classic 80s comic kind of vibe to it, Maybe I should have gotten him to draw a barbarian squirrel. Guys, I need more money for science. Next up is Shade Shaper, and he's got quite the collection of characters on his portfolio, including some D&D characters and a style that ranges quite a bit. He also has some snazzy maps, as well as this mechanical Ganon dude, which is, let's be honest, pretty awesome. But what I really liked was his traditional and canvas painting section. I'd love to see that in a fancy TTRPG book. That'd be some high-quality stuff. Maybe a spookier type of setting, like a vampire kind of game or something. End of the world, maybe? Or maybe the Victorian era style of steampunk. Decisions.
Ladies and gentlemen, like and subscribe so we can hire more artists.
Now, what if you're working on a more lighthearted system? Marina has a style that reminds me of the cartoons like Dexter's Lab. I could definitely see these being used in either a kid's game or something that just absolutely does not take itself seriously. Or maybe one trying to tickle that old nostalgia bone. Personally, the alligator here is my favorite. Next up is Einkstein, if I pronounced that right, or just Vicky according to their page. Their stuff gives me some street art vibes mixed with something, I don't know. It's hard to place. On one hand, I feel like I've seen this kind of stuff before, but I couldn't tell you from what or where. Which honestly doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because it's still cool looking and I like it. Might be a good pick for an urban fantasy game or something. As a matter of fact, I could see some of this being sprayed on the walls around certain parts of Grimwood City from Ironbound for sure. Or maybe a very mystical type of fantasy game. Mucho Muerte, which is probably not how you pronounce that, but hey, I gave it my best shot. They've got some grittier stuff, some of which made me think of Tales from Elsewhere. Got a lot of spooky vibes going on, and I like that. Not grim or gross, just something that really makes you wonder what else is going on in that world. And then you got some that are just cozy and nice. And then it goes back to creepy. LazyBuns, probably the best name out of the bunch. I'm mostly sharing them because a lot of their work is emoji and avatar related, which, let's face it, we all have an online presence to some degree, right? And if you're going to be showing off your work and getting the word out and all that, having an avatar or character of some sort tends to help, which is kind of how this whole thing got started, isn't it? And last on the list, well, almost last, I do still have the oddball one, but last on the list of people that I spoke with, we have, and I kid you not, Squirrel or Squarrel, I'm not sure. They sent such a super fun opening message, and I was absolutely heartbroken that it didn't work out. It would have been great if a fellow squirrel enthusiast ended up being the artist, but the style just wasn't clicking for me. It's very fun, and I could see it getting used in some future projects. And that was the hard part about this, right? Getting to see somebody's work and feeling like they did a really good job and also really liking their work, but the style just not matching and then having to tell them no. It feels weird saying, hey, your stuff is super cool, but no. Still, shout out to the squirrel. And that brings us to the last of the last, and this is the person I couldn't get in touch with, but there's a reason I'm making an exception for this one and showing her off anyway. See, they responded in a comment to the post I originally made looking for an artist. Problem is, when you edit your post to say submissions are closed, the mods lock the post, meaning nobody can comment anymore or even reply to comments. No big deal, I'll just shoot them a DM, right? Well, they had those turned off. So I was like, all right, I'll find another way to reach out to them on something else. Well, they shared their Facebook, but I don't have an account there, so here we are. Y'all know I'm not a big horror fan, but I know a handful of you are and are even working on some spooky projects of your own, so when I saw her stuff, I knew I had to share. As a matter of fact, pretty sure that's what gave me the original idea for this video now that I think about it. Anyway, if you can get a hold of them, they got some stellar stuff. Too spooky for me, but hey, it's not all about me, right? Though this is my channel. Maybe it is all about me. I don't like it. Anyway, that's the ones I have to share. Obviously, there were more, but those are the ones that responded that I reached out to, minus the last one. There is an absolute ton of talent out there, and a lot of them are itching for work. I'm going to have to start designing systems and games just as an excuse to hire an artist. And you know, it could be a really fun challenge designing a game based off the art instead of the other way around. I could do it, but more projects isn't really what I need at the moment. Now, in case I haven't mentioned it yet, all the artist names and contact info are in the description, assuming it fits. If not, there will be a pinned comment. So, best of luck to all of you and your projects out there. Let me know if you end up connecting with anybody here so I can celebrate a small victory. And for all the artists mentioned here, thank you for reaching out and working with my babbling. And for all the other artists out there doing your thing, just keep on keeping on, man.